Hi there, welcome to virtual iTeach Plus session. Today we're going to talk about some myths and misconceptions about e-learning, both e-learning in general and as it relates to UAF e-learning. I'm Heidi Olson. I'm the Learning Design Coordinator for the Instructional Design team at UAF e-learning. And today, in the next hour, we're going to just share some concepts and features of e-learning in both course design and development, faculty services, and student services. And today, I have two other folks with me. Karina.
Hi, everyone. I'm Karina Gonzalez, the Faculty Services Coordinator at UAF e-learning.
And hi, everybody. My name is Faith Flegel, and I'm the Student Success Specialist for UAF eLearning.
Great. I'm going to go ahead and share some presentation slides with you all. And here is who we are, and here is a slide that has a short URL on it. And if you would like to join us in the presentation, you should go to this URL. You can see our presentation, and this is also where the recording link will be housed. So if you want to come back to it another time. We have this YouTube Live channel going, so at any time if you want to chat a question or a comment or a statement about what we're talking about, encourage you to do that. We'll be monitoring that as we go along here. But let's go ahead and get started. Karina, I think you're up first.
I sure am. Okay, so myth one. Everyone knows what we mean when we say e-learning. So although e-learning is an easy word to recognize, there are many terms to describe what it means. E-learning can be defined simply as the use of electronic technologies to learn educational curriculum outside of the traditional classroom. In most cases, it refers to a course, program, or degree delivered completely online. Now, the sticky part is the end of this definition because delivery spans a variety of methods and products. So e-learning could be computer-based training, on-demand learning, narrated slideshows, web-enhanced content, independent courses, or courses open to anyone who has internet access. Essentially, e-learning is learning delivered online regardless of technology used. It is, however, not a course presented via DVD or TV channel because e-learning is interactive and that there's communication and collaboration between instructors and students. Let's take a closer look at some examples. Heidi, next slide, please. At UAF, an e-learning supported course is most often online, instructor-led, scheduled with periodic deadlines, and asynchronous. Asynchronous means there's no obligation to meet a specific date or time. There are also other types of e-learning courses, such as synchronous, which means there are set meeting times, flex learning for online students join face-to-face students for lectures, and hybrid classes, which is the combination of online and face-to-face learning. So, e-learning at UAF captures a variety of delivery methods. But wait, e-learning is more than just course modalities. An e-learning supported course means the instructor has administrative and design support from the e-learning department at UAF. Administrative support encompasses the mechanics of an online course, including policies, procedures, textbooks, grading, registration, deadlines, basically all academic milestones. Design support is unique to UF e-learning and not offered by any other department on campus. Instructional designers at UAF eLearning collaborate with faculty to create rich online courses. This is done through open labs, one-on-one consultations, and training on tools, pedagogy, and so much more. Now that we've defined e-learning and talked about its presence at UAF, let's move on to students' experience in an online classroom.
So just as Karina mentioned, when we talk about e-learning, there's just a lot of questions that go along with that. But along with faculty trying to figure out what do we mean when we say e-learning, a lot of our students have questions too. Heidi, can we do the next slide? So I talked to a lot of students that are trying to figure out if e-learning is the best option for them. And honestly, students know all about the flexibility and the potential that e-learning has to offer. But they have a lot of questions like, what will the class look like? And how do I know what I'm supposed to do and when that's due? I also get a lot of questions about technology and do I have the skills to be a successful e-learning student? Will the instructor actually realize that I'm a person on the other end of the screen, or are they just going to ignore me because it's so much easier just to click I've dealt with this email and not really help me through the course? But there are several ways that we encourage faculty to go about helping support their students. Thanks, Heidi. So there are many ways for faculty to give students a good idea of what they're getting into before the first day of class. When students are registering for your course through UA Online, it should be clear that they're signing up for a course that if you do have meeting times throughout the week, what those times are so they can plan. Or if you're not going to have meeting times, that this is a fully 100% online course. If you would like to not have weekly meetings, but throughout the course of the semester you would like to have conferences with your students, let them know as soon as possible that that is an expectation that you have so that they can go ahead and make those plans. One thing that we have definitely found is sometimes it's not communicated clearly what the expectations of the course are. And students just simply cannot meet expectations that are not clearly outlined. Communicate what you are looking for in a concise manner, and then include the repercussions if those expectations are not fulfilled. Our e-learning staff has found that a quick first contact assignment can help immensely with getting your students engaged from the very beginning. I was a former e-learning student, and I always liked it when we had these first quick assignments that didn't really have anything to do with the course other than maybe a simple question of, why am I taking this class? Maybe what brought me here? How did I find out about it? But the rest of the questions were really focused on getting to know me as a person instead of just a screen and some letters being typed out on a discussion board. And some of my best instructors would remember the comments that I made on those first days. And if I would have a question about the material later on, they would try to give me examples based on my interests that I had said on the first day of class. So it made a connection with us personally. Sometimes instructors would share personal stories if we had common interests, and it's just a really nice way just to kind of humanize the experience. Another thing would be—
That's a great story, Faith. I think that is really important in order to build that community within a
Yes.
class, is to get things off on a really good step, and that's a perfect example.
It was wonderful. It really makes your students realize that you care about them, which is definitely a fear that a lot of students that I talk about e-learning with have that fear. Let's see. So one— communication. Online students aren't going to be in a classroom and see a whiteboard with weekly reminders, and you're not going to see them around the halls of your university. They're not going to be coming to physical office hours. They're going to need to have reminders of that one detail that was in a syllabus, and they are not going to remember. They read the syllabus on the first day, they're not going to remember that one little thing. So I have found that instructors who communicate with their students regularly have fewer little emergencies because they forgot and they didn't plan accordingly. Students might even have assignments completed early, or at least on time. And students who can foresee potential conflicts have the time to make other arrangements, and it's so much easier to work with them on a one-on-one basis. It ultimately boils down to, if you're engaged, then your students are more likely to follow your example and be engaged themselves.
That's also a great idea about modeling expectations. So even in like your email communications or giving feedback to students, modeling the behavior that you're expecting from your students is a great way to portray those expectations, and then also just kind of continue that community building aspect, which like you say, sometimes students are really surprised when they enroll in an e-learning supported course that there are things like deadlines, and that they might have to actually interact with each other as students, which is a misconception. E-learning, some students think that e-learning is the easy way out, and it's more like an online correspondence course. And I think that that we really need to make those expectations clear, because e-learning doesn't mean correspondence courses. There's a lot of rigor involved, and there is certainly a degree of different quality depending on the instructor and what efforts placed into a course. Things like approval, e-learning supported courses, the course is approved by the department, the course offering is approved by the school or college. The syllabus is approved by the curriculum committee through faculty senate. The department approval is given to who's teaching the course. That's all department and program, school, college driven. And then the student evaluations that come out of an e-learning course go directly back to the instructor for that feedback, and then of course to the department and dean as part of the tenure package. E-learning courses are really, we really strive in the course design to have a blend of interactions. So it's not just student to content, or one student to one instructor. There's also that student-to-student interaction. So every course is meant to have a percentage of different types of interaction, which often leads to more types of assignments within an online or e-learning course, which are most often formative assessments, meaning that students are practicing towards an end goal. So they would do an activity, they would get some feedback from either you as the instructor or from other students through peer-to-peer evaluation or communication, which can be very different from a face-to-face delivered class, where you might only have a few individual checkpoints throughout the class, instead of these weekly or semi-weekly check-in points where the students are doing an activity, proving to you that they're engaged in the course and understanding the concepts, and then as well really benefiting from your personalized individual feedback. E-learning courses are also more than just a publisher's created materials or content. They should include things like instructor insights and expertise, perhaps through lectures or videos or notes, you know, this is what students are paying for. They're paying for the instructor's perspective and voice on the specific topic, because you as instructors have that expertise. You have your passion about a topic, and you know, you should be sharing that with your students. Other things like you know, course quality. Just like in a face-to-face class, you can have some e-learning classes that have pretty low quality. You know, it's the amount of effort you as a faculty member are willing to put into the course to create a really nice course structure and organization, and build in those interactions that can help with that course quality. I read this journal article by Ted Smith that's referenced here, including 51 competencies for online instruction. And it's a really nice list of things as an online instructor or face-to-face instructor, for that matter, should be thinking about before they deliver the course, while they're delivering the course, and then after. It's little checkpoints that you should be using under consideration to make sure that your course is not a correspondence course, because that isn't your end goal, and it's not our end goal either. So many of the misconceptions that we make about students themselves and about the courses themselves as e-learning correspondence courses also leads to a term which is digital natives, which is an assumption about a population of students that is also not true. So George Orwell is quoted to say, "Each generation imagines itself to be more intelligent than the one that went before it, and wiser than the one that comes after it." This, to me, speaks to the digital native quandary. In 2001, Mark Prensky wrote that our students today are all native speakers of the digital language of computers, video games, and the internet. And it became a thing, and it still is. However, I think that there's research out there dispelling the myth that a certain population of people are digital natives, and they are going to be experts at all things computer and technology. And I think that this is proven incorrect. Another theory 10 years later by David White in 2011 suggested that digital residents and digital visitors is a more realistic definition, where you might use a technology quite a bit and you might be a pro at it, so you might be a digital resident, but you may be a digital visitor, or one that doesn't use technology, a specific technology, because you're not using it continuously. So basically, it's like no one can, just because you're in a certain age group doesn't make you an expert on anything. I think also that when you're overgeneralizing and making assumptions on prior knowledge, that we really need to be careful about making those assumptions. I think that when we're talking about expertise in computers and technology, I think what really matters are socioeconomic issues, where you might not have access to equipment or data services or internet fees. It might not be something that you can practice with because you can't afford it. I think those socioeconomics have a more impact on how experienced you are with digital technology. Also, certainly geography. urban, rural, U.S., non-U.S., you know, access to broadband and internet is still an issue, especially in the state of Alaska. And if you don't have access to some things, you're not going to be using it. So your experience is going to be low, and it doesn't matter how old you are. It's just a thing. Certainly passion, if you're passionate about technology and using digital elements for learning or for work or for play, you're gonna keep more motivated to learn, and you're gonna keep more current. Also, another aspect that might influence your technology-ness is what stage of life you're at. So as far as like maybe getting credentials or sticking with something. So someone maybe younger, they might really benefit from a certification or some sort of competency, where someone later in life might be in it to learn something, but they're not really specifically interested in the certificate itself, but the action. So some say that the younger generation are really interested in getting certificates, where older generation may not be. But I think it really matters in your stage of life. For instance, I, being elderly, might not see a benefit of running through the hoops to get a specific certificate. I might be interested in the classes, but someone maybe with less experience might really want that certificate because they can't replace that on their resume with actual work history. Anyway, something to think about. Other things like relevance, you know, is the technology relevant to my work or play, and experiencing exposure. These are all things that play a bigger impact on how skilled and how comfortable you are with technology, rather than being born on a certain date. So I think the idea of digital native is pretty much debunked, and if you Google it, you'll certainly find a plethora of academic research to back that up. What I do think is also important is that all students need support, and it's especially for online learners. And especially for those who aren't also taking face-to-face classes, where the student support might be more obvious. So that sort of leads us into our next myth about e-learning students don't have access to resources.
Yeah, so just because your students aren't in a traditional classroom doesn't mean that they're on their own island when it comes to resources to help them be successful in your course. Heidi, can we do the next slide? So at UAF, we have countless, and this is one area that I really think that we're continuing to grow in, and that there will just be more and more as time goes on. But here are some of the top ones that UAF offers. We have a really diverse student population here, and so we have Rural Student Services, which is an academic department, but they're dedicated to responding to students' needs by providing quality services to Native and rural students. So even though we have academic advising here in our office, a lot of times students will go through Rural Student Services for additional help. And they are great in hands-on helping their students, whether in person or online, get registered and then help them get the materials and everything that they need for their class. We also have the TRIO program through Student Support Services, which I'll just refer to as TRIO. TRIO specializes in helping students who are financially limited, they're first-generation college students, or they have a physical or learning disability. TRIO, your students do have to qualify for it. Is something that they do have to apply for, but they are a wonderful resource. They offer students numerous resources that are only exclusive to them, such as scholarships, internships, advising, free tutoring. They even have, on top of the tutoring, supplemental math instruction. And then they also help their students. They do a lot around our local area for volunteering and helping students get experience that they can put on their resumes. But they also would be able to assist students for ideas in their own community if they weren't located here for giving back. Our math department, they also have online math tutoring, which is available to any student that's enrolled in a math course. And it's really convenient because the program that they use can be done 24/7. So if you have a night owl student, which a lot of our e-learning students are, they need to take a class and they're up at 2 a.m. working and they need help with a problem, this is an excellent resource that is not at a cost to the student. We also have the UAF Writing Center, which offers phone conferences for our students who need their papers reviewed, or they just need to bounce ideas off of another person for this class, or they're even able to offer resume building help too. The Elmer Rasmussen Library, they're not just on campus here, but they also have access to hundreds of online articles. And it's also really nice too because there are a lot of like research banks out there, kind of, right? You have to have credentials to log into, and most of those banks have some sort of fee. And the library has partnered with a lot of those resources and said, well, if we give our students this login information, can they access your materials for free? And they can. So it really opens up a whole nother world beyond just Google Scholar to our students. And I used them a lot in my undergrad, and they were incredibly helpful. Students who are in the area definitely can call in and get assistance there too. One big fear that a lot of our students have is what if my technology is not up to date? How do I figure that out if I'm in the middle of my class and I don't understand forget my Blackboard password or anything like that? Our OIT office can help students near and far with tech questions, and then they can also even help them troubleshoot some issues. We also have disability services, which they do have an online presence, a campus presence, but they also do help our online students. So just because a student may need special accommodations, or they might need some device to help them with note-taking, or need additional testing time, or whatever that might be, they are wonderful with making sure that the student gets what they need and that they can also communicate that with the instructor. So it's not a reason for a student not to be able to take an online course. And then within e-learning, students have me to help them throughout the course of their semester. I'm here, and sometimes I get really random questions, but I do have a lot of experience within UAF, not just e-learning. So usually can try to help point students that way, or that they need to go, or sometimes I'll be able just to research things for them and figure out what's the best course of action and give them some advice. Another myth that we have within our office is that all exams must have a proctor. And Heidi, can we go to the next slide? Thanks. So e-learning doesn't have a requirement that you have proctors for your test. This is something that is completely up to you, and I would recommend checking with your department as well, because some departments do require that certain courses have proctored exams. So that's just a completely internal discussion. So there are some reasons why you would want to have a proctor. If you have your learning outcomes, and that is, you want to know What are students learning in your class? What are they retaining? What are they going to take away? And if that matches up with a test platform, and that is the way you're going to find out that information, probably to get the most clear results would be to require a proctor. But for some classes, you really just want students to collaborate and work on projects. And it's not a huge deal to you if you have quizzes and tests that maybe they're using additional materials for, then you don't need to have a proctor. If you decide that you would like to go ahead with a proctor, we try to make it as easy on you as possible. So what would happen is that you could work with one of our faculty services coordinators, Leslie, to get those materials to us. And you have the option of saying, I want no materials allowed. I would like the textbook but no notes, calculators only. Whatever instructions you give us, that is what we are going to follow. And that is what outside proctors are going to follow as well. So we do take seriously what you would like to have your students allowed in a test. And we'll go through the process of, if your student isn't in the area, helping them find a proctor, vetting the proctor, making sure the materials are to them, and that they will also adhere to the same strict guidelines that UAF has. One thing I can't say enough about is communicate with your students that this is going to be a requirement first day of class. Not all proctors outside of our office are free, and that's something to keep in mind. It is not uncommon for proctors to charge $25+ per hour per exam. Some have a per day rate, but I find that per hour is more common. So this could be a potential financial expense that could really add up for students. And if this is what they're getting into, they need to know sooner rather than later to see if this is going to be feasible for them. As you go through the semester, it's always helpful to remind your students. It's really easy to do on Blackboard, set up an announcement, and then have that announcement blasted through email communication as well, reminding students 2 weeks out, 1 week out, hey, you have a proctor test coming up. You can't wait until the last minute. I do my best when students do wait till the last minute to get everything out to them and to their proctors on time, but there are no guarantees, and there have been cases where I just can't get a proctor on time for them. So we'd hate for one of your students to have everything late. And with that, we're going to go on to myth number 7 with Karina.
Great, thanks, Faith. So myth number 7, student grievances are not taken seriously. At UF eLearning, we care about the student experience and will work with faculty and departments to create a positive one. Heidi, can we go on? Thanks. So when a student has questions or concerns about his or her e-learning experience, we have a response team to engage both student and instructor in finding a resolution. Usually this means providing guidance to faculty regarding availability, communication, and feedback, as well as technology training and troubleshooting. We follow up on each and every student reported grievance and are generally able to resolve matters in-house. However, if a student is not satisfied with the outcome of the departmental level resolution, UAF eLearning and the student can work with the instructor's department and the Dean of Students' office. One last thing to mention about student feedback. It's taken into account and shared with instructors and departments for future course revisions. Okay, so we've talked about student experience in an online classroom. Let's turn to myth 8 and bring our attention to the faculty experience. So the focus of eLearning, UAF eLearning, is to work with faculty to strengthen the quality of learning and the quality of experience. We respect the faculty's academic freedom and ownership of course content. With that said, The simple answer to myth number 8 is no. UAF eLearning does not own course content created by faculty. This answer, no, may be the bottom line, but let's try to package the concept of intellectual property a bit more. UAF eLearning is a facilitator in developing course content and making it available to students. We do not exercise special rights on intellectual property or course materials created by faculty for an online course or other modalities described under Myth 1. Ownership and use of online course materials are negotiated between faculty and departments, schools, and colleges. After all, courses are developed with approval of UAF academic departments, which exercise oversight and approval over content. This is to ensure online courses are designed to meet the same standards and outcomes as all other UAF courses, and are subject to the same department review and curriculum approval process.
So that leads us to myth number 9. Since you own the content, you should and can make changes. So after you build a course, you're not really done with it. As much to keep your own self engaged and making the course interesting. After you deliver the course once, you're going to want to make changes and updates to keep things current, and also to kind of fix things. And also, if you do find that your students have filed a grievance for one reason or another, maybe you really need to be honest with yourself to look at your course design and delivery from the student's perspective. There really might be some issues that you as an expert and someone who's really close to the content and the delivery of course that you're just not, that you're missing. And to a novice and someone who hasn't spent hours and hours in developing your course structure, navigation, and content, really might be unclear. The design process starts out with the design. Before you implement the design, you're reviewing, maybe even having a second pair of eyes to check, certainly, for spelling and grammar issues, but also clarity and any navigation issues. You're going to implement the course, and while you're running the course, you might be taking notes on things you might want to clear up for the next time. One thing I like to do and suggest is I usually use Blackboard as my course site, and I create a side menu item for notes that I hide from the students. And as I work through the course, I add my little notes to that section so that at the end of the semester, I don't have to scratch my head and think about all those things that I was going to fix. I have them right there in a to-do list. I can copy the course for the next semester, address that to-do list, and then start over. So that's one little trick that I like to do. After you've run the course, you're going to want to do a self-review. How did it go? Did your students succeed in the objectives that you set forth? Were there any things that they really didn't get and you might need to address for the next time? And then, of course, there's the student evaluations, which is also going to help you perhaps with some of the delivery issues that that someone who isn't taking the class and reviewing your course isn't going to catch. Everyone at UAF, all faculty, have access to Quality Matters, which is a standard, a recognized standard for course design quality. You can create your own MyQM, My Quality Matters account. They have a rubric with 43 different standards to help you make a review of your course design. You can do a self-review. It has really tried to think of a review process from the student perspective. So there's actually, you know, quite a few standards that you wouldn't normally think about, but they're driven by student perspective, and they can really be very helpful. So with this process, that kind of brings us to our next and final thought, and something that Faith said at the beginning of the session is that one thing we really need to remember is that there are real people attached to the words on the screen, and that can involve some activity and action on your part. So myth number 10, e-learning is low touch. I think we all realize that being a teacher and teaching is never low touch. You're making an impact.
Mm-hmm. So Heidi, I'd like to provide an example of how high touch e-learning can be at e-learning or UAF in general. So we have programs, outreach programs, that we employ at least twice a year, but faculty are more than welcome to contact us throughout the semester. When student engagement is low, we provide students with one-on-one communication and resource referral. So the program is coordinated by me and UAF eLearning's academic advisor. So basically, the outreach programs, we ask faculty for a list of students in each course who seem to be struggling or have fallen behind. And our academic advisor contacts every student to help them get back on track, to help them be aware of deadlines and study habits, resources on campus that they've talked about. And so this is a true example of how high-touch e-learning is, because we really do engage with faculty, engage with students, to make sure that student success is something that we're all part of.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Heidi and Karina had a lot of great points, and I think it's really helpful having been an e-learning student, and I was one of those students that I had to have online because the classroom just wasn't an option. I needed flexibility. I needed to be able to take my classroom with me, and looking back, the faculty that were engaged with me, that saw me more than just a post on a discussion board, those are the ones that I remember. So you don't think that because you're personalizing comments to them, or when you give them feedback, you spend a little bit more time, those things don't go unnoticed. I honestly don't remember the classes where I just had a grade and no comments. I remember the ones that I felt valued in, and that I was a student, and that my instructor was just as concerned about what I was taking away from their class as if I were in a classroom falling behind or I needed additional help. So what you do and how you deliver your course, it all matters. And we want to be here to help you, be successful so that your students can.
Yeah, I think you both brought out some really good things. You know, retention is a really big trend right now. I mean, it always should be, but even especially now, retention is really on everyone's thoughts. And one way of retaining students is, you know, making that connection with them. And I think all of us respond to that regardless just in any manner, whether it's work or personal or in education. You respond to the connections that you make with one another, and maintaining that in an online course can be difficult, but it's really necessary. And in order to retain students and to get them to that end goal, you have to reach out to them.
And I think the same can be said for faculty too, Heidi. We really do, as a department, UF eLearning, we really do try to connect with our faculty, through the course development process, and also through student engagement and retention. Like I mentioned, we have that outreach program that happens at least twice a semester. The faculty are more than able to contact me, our academic advisor, or anyone at eLearning if they want help in reaching out to students and making sure that they're active, they're engaged, and they have a chance to be successful in the course. For example, our academic advisor, she contacts a student that's, over the years has been struggling with in the online classroom, but has been making small consistent wins with his program because she's so engaged in his achievement. She contacts him every week to make sure he's on schedule, he's following the syllabus, he's turning in assignments, he's aware of exams. And so there's that direct connection between eLearning as a student support unit, and then I, on the other side of things, touch base with the faculty often to make sure that this particular student is meeting the course requirements. And so we really do try to foster that connection between UAF eLearning as a department, students, and faculty. And we're constantly working at it. And I can say that I really enjoy that part of my job, is making sure that we have strong connections and strong collaborative efforts with everyone involved.
Yeah, that's excellent. And I think I can say that at eLearning we also are we want your help in telling, in what we can do to help you. So if you have ideas or thoughts about what kind of support you really need, we may be missing the mark in some way, and having that information can only make us stronger. So please do make sure you are reaching out to us so that we can also make sure we're all on the same page.
Like we encourage faculty to develop their courses and revise and just to make efforts to make it better. But we also take that into account internally, and we try to improve our own processes to make sure that we stay current. We meet the needs of students, of faculty, of the UAF community in general. And so that encouragement, is also something that we hold very close as a unit. That we're going to respond to the needs and the wants of the UAF community. And so we're constantly evolving, constantly coming up with ideas, collaborating amongst ourselves, but also with UAF departments, and just staying really engaged.
Yeah. Any last thoughts? I'm going to share once again the short URL to a link to this presentation, and also a link to the recording. So if you if there's something you missed, you want to go back to, then you can access it through this short link. And yes, it is case sensitive. Also, in 2 weeks, we're going to be doing another virtual hangout about using metrics and analytics to help your students. So there are tools that you can use with the resources that are available to you to actually help identify maybe some weaknesses you're not aware of, which kind of goes along with this whole idea of being engaged with the student. So keep your eye open for an announcement about our virtual iTeach happening on March 22nd about using metrics and analytics. Thanks for joining us today. Really appreciate it, and we'll sign off for now.